Welcome to Between Two Pastries. I'm Nicole.
This is Annie, and today we have Lauren with us.
Hey,
Hi, Lauren.
It's always so weird.
Yeah.
All right, so we wanted to have Lauren on. Lauren, tell us who you are, what you do, all that good stuff. Just the basics, you know.
So my name's Lauren. I grew up in Milwaukee, and just how I had connections that brought me to Annie, actually. But I started running in high school, ran in college, and then kind of took my own path with athletics and kind of ended up in that cycle that I feel like so many female athletes end up. Losing weight, getting faster, getting compliments, and it was just kind of this like self-fulfilling vicious cycle until I found myself at a really, really low weight, BMI below normal. Felt like I think it was a particular day I had gone out on like a 20 or 22 mile long run and just almost didn't finish it. And it was within a week of that I got in contact with Annie and said, I need help because this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of have been on my journey of recovery from that and went on to, I was in medical school at that time and now have since finished that, and I'm in my residency program in pediatrics and in Chicago, and that's where we're at.
Wow.
It's such a long journey too, but yet it's still, it's been a while, but it feels like it went by quickly too, to go from there, where you were at, to where you are now from a nutrition standpoint. And the fact that, you were in medical school and now you're, in residency and now, and now probably, obviously working in pediatrics, you're dealing with, you don't actually deal with the patient necessarily, you're dealing with the parents of the patient, which I think can be really, really challenging. Yeah. It's not the patient that's the challenge, it's the parents that are the challenge. And do you notice any challenges with parents when it comes to nutrition for the patients?
I feel like in being in the hospital setting, the nutrition that I'm dealing with is now just the complete opposite of what my experience has been my whole life. It's like nutrition is now medicine and it's sustenance, and it's, we're dealing with kids in the ICU and kids with cystic fibrosis and where I always had this less is more mentality, and we in the outpatient realm are dealing so much more with obesity and the quality of that. Inpatient, it's much more, how can we optimize nutrition? And I think parents have been really receptive to that.
Good. I'm part of a clinical group, and one person put in there how, they were questioning, how do I deal with these parents who, the patient was diagnosed with malnutrition and they were insisting on a paleo tube feed. And she's like, what do I do? Because that's A, non-existent, and B, absurd. It's someone with malnutrition. And so people will post about how they have to deal with the parents of and this was an adult patient, but still the parents or even the children then of patients, and dealing with family members in regards to nutrition can really be challenging because of what's all out there. And it's so much based on people's viewpoints. And do you feel in hospitals that people don't necessarily want to believe the medical professionals all the time? Does that ever get frustrating or happen?
Absolutely. I think I see it all of the time. And I see it less in the realm of nutrition. And I would say part of that is because we have the privilege of having dietitians in the hospital. And so they deal with it. A lot of blood work there.
Naturally. Yeah.
She's going to brush it off. Here you go.
I will say one time in one domain in which we really struggle with this is outpatient. And you kind of touched on this in your last podcast is the parents who are coming in with kids, infants who are on a diet or soy milk or what have you. So that's a lot more education.
It does, and it's hard to not get frustrated, and I think it doesn't probably matter what type of medical professional you are. I think it's some things really kind of like are just daggers at us, where we just get really frustrated,
Right.
with different, and it gets me to my core when parents come in and really, put their own kind of thinking or cultural way of eating, like their diet culture, on their children who have no control over it. And it's just so hard. And I have clients or patients, who are 18, 19, 20 years old, where they grew up like, well, I remember my mom saying how much she hated her body, and how, like all of these memories they have when they were like, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you're just like, oh my God. And oftentimes it's not necessarily the parents' fault, right? I mean, they don't necessarily realize that they're even doing this sometimes. I mean, maybe they do, but
absorb all of that, though, and
everything.
That's what sets the core of, oh, this is what I need to believe in. Oh, you're not supposed to like yourself. Oh, I'm, supposed to be a particular way, or yeah. And even still and sometimes that happens even when parents don't do that. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, that's just right. Or, I think Lauren, in your case, I mean, I'm going to assume you're in the medical field, you're a runner, you're probably maybe more on the type A type of personality. Similar to me as well, that type A, and with that comes perfectionism. And so when you were in medical school and you're working hard at that, you're working hard at running, all of a sudden it's this, this domino effect of everything that we want to try to control. And that's the part. And I don't know, did you, when you were experiencing all of that in college, did you realize that was going on? Could you tell things were different?
I could. I mean, I think, I don't know if I don't know the last time I've had a healthy relationship with food. I would say I was counting calories back in middle school and restricting. I mean, that was just that was just everywhere. And I think, by the time that I was really spiraling down, towards the end of college and the beginning of medical school, it was, I noticed I was weighing myself every day, and my mood would be affected by what the scale said. And, it's really just when you get to the fact that when you get to the point that everything is tied into your weight, your self-worth is tied in, and your mood and everything. I mean, I knew it, and I was having problems with my relationship because I was always tired and always easily angered, and it was affecting everything, and I was aware of that, and it was just hard to let go of that control piece, I think.
How did you let go of that control? Like, what did you do? What can you tell a listener? Because there's a lot of people out there who maybe don't have a diagnosis of an eating disorder, but fall in that disordered eating category, where they are counting calories or weighing themselves, and maybe they think it's healthy, or maybe it's not really, or they're doing different diets or whatever. How did you break that cycle for yourself?
I think it was twofold. One, like I said, it was really affecting my relationship. He stayed with me, and we're about to get married now, but
which is good. It didn't, it didn't hit the pot, right?
Yeah. There were days that I really was pushing him away, and I controlled what we ate. I didn't want him cooking anything. It was all about that control piece and knowing exactly what I was putting into my body. And then the other part was my running. Running has always been something that has meant so much to me, and it's been such a big part of me. And when I saw that was starting to suffer as a result of all this, it felt like it wasn't worth it. And when I met with you, Annie, one of the things that I've remembered from our first meeting forever is you asked me, like, why are you running, and why are you eating this way? Like, what is your goal? Are you doing this to look good, to be skinny, or are you doing this to get faster? And then that was all I needed,
which is awesome. I mean, usually it's not that great as for us as practitioners to like have that, like, wow, it clicked, and to have it click right away, which is great. Because it's really true. As an athlete, you have to run. And I remember, based on your workouts and what you were doing. And I remember us adding just like the equivalent of like a gel before you'd work out or even during a run, just starting with those basic, just getting something in. And I remember you going from like, I think wasn't it like a 3:40 or 3:45 marathon down to a 3:07 it was unreal just how much you improved by simply starting to eat more.
Clearly your training was there and had been there.
Yeah.
But it was like you couldn't even experience the benefit of your training because the nutrition was so lacking. Exactly. So interesting.
But you closed your eyes and you jumped in. And that's a really scary thing to do, that exposure and everything. And I remember one thing I remember about when I was working with you, Lauren, is I remember, I don't know if you emailed me or texted me or what it was so long ago, but you had made a pizza and you were so excited about the pizza you had made. And it had like, it wasn't like you threw a bunch of mozzarella cheese and pepperonis on it was like special and like had all these fun ingredients. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. It was, it had like feta on it and like just a bunch of, different ingredients. And I was just so proud that you went from eating a paw full of nuts, to eating pizza, which is a really just an awesome thing. I love seeing that. And you have improved as an athlete. I mean, tell us about what you're doing now in Chicago with that. It's so cool.
Yeah. So I, after a year of really hoping and trying to find a way to get myself on this team, I managed to time qualify and get an interview with a Nike sponsored all women sub-elite racing team. So group of 12 women, and we have a coach who's providing our workouts. We have our athletic trainers, and it's just the most amazing community. Unfortunately right now we're not seeing each other because of the quarantine and at home and everything. But we Zoom once a week, and it's just been, it felt so incredible to have that team aspect and that community back again, and to really push each other.
Right.
Do you guys all kind of like collaborate together and really empower each other? Do you feel like, is it a very close-knit group of women?
Yeah. And I remember coming home from maybe like my second practice and telling Gray, my fiance, it's like, we just talked nonstop for the first 20 minutes. The coaches couldn't get a word in edgewise. And it's like this new group of girls, and we're already, so close. So yeah, it's been really
That's
fun.
awesome.
Really cool.
Now there's a dietitian in that group, right?
There isn't someone that works specifically with us. We do have like people who come in and provide talks. And then the gym that's affiliated with my coach, the Edge Lounge, there's a dietitian affiliated with
there. Okay. I feel like I've seen that before, which is pretty cool, because I mean, most running groups, even sub-elite groups, that's not a thing, like they're just kind of like, okay, go get your times, good luck.
Right.
So that's really great that you get those other little added benefits and everything. So I think that's really, I think it's so cool where you've come from, because had you stayed within your disorder, it'd be very interesting what life would look like right now. And I say that to patients all the time. Like you had this, it started in, when you were 15, and then now you're being treated at 20 and then again at 30 and 35 and 40, when we could have dealt with it when you were 15, if you just would have closed your eyes and jumped in.
Yeah.
And how life can look so much different, whether in a good way or in a bad way, and it's, you really learn to appreciate, like, I'm really glad I experienced this eating disorder, but I'm glad I was able to overcome it. Like you learn so much from those experiences, and really where you don't want to be, like what you don't want in life. So, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Nicole.
I was just going to say, how have you been able to kind of apply your own life experience into your current practice, into your residency?
I think I definitely have more of a intuition when it comes up in other patients.
Yep.
And I think it also just gives me, I can come from the standpoint of having the experience and having a little bit more empathy You know, unfortunately, so many of my, I shouldn't say so many, but there are colleagues, older male colleagues, as I'm sure you guys have experienced, who they don't get it.
Right.
And this was even something that I you know, grew up having this same influence from my dad. You know, like, I don't get it. And so I feel like I can come from that point of experience and share that experience and open up. And I do feel like it allows patients in turn to kind of open up to me, because as much as we do deal with the parents, you know, the patients that I'm seeing with issues like this are older.
Oh, okay, sure.
And old enough that I can be, you know, having these conversations with them.
Which is really, it's helpful in that regard, you know, like clinical dietitians are awesome. They're like some of the they're smartest doctors, I feel. And I see sometimes what they write and I can't even read half the words, right? Like they get, it's like so clinical. But they don't necessarily have the feelings part, you know, that where they can really understand the disordered eating component of things. Like it's really, I mean, would you say in the medical world, in medical school, and I know in dietetic school, we'll call it, eating disorders was not necessarily a class.
Right.
You know, like, was that how it was in medical school? Like, I don't feel like they covered it. Yeah.
I mean, we covered it. I would say probably under the category of, you know, like mental behavior disorders, and, you know, kind of in the gamut of depression, anxiety, bulimia, eating disorders.
It's a slide of
it's a slide, right?
It's a slide. Here, eating disorders, and now on to anxiety disorders. Right. And that's how I think it was. I mean, and unless I'm forgetting, that's how it was in school for dietetics as well. Like, it's a very specialized thing in a sense, but if you don't understand it, you can do a lot of damage to patients.
And that's the key.
It's kind of mind-blowing, you know, just how
you have such a power now too, because of your insight, Lauren, and so you can actually kind of have your little, you know, red flags up going, oops, you know, I definitely see that this person could really benefit, but then you also have the ability then to even direct them to the right people to help support too.
That's huge.
And I'm very, very fortunate. I mean, obviously this isn't an experience that I would wish on anyone. Disordered eating, but I do feel like it's played a very critical role in who I've become. So.
Well, you know, I think we need more people to fight for these types of maybe patients that would come your way, because I also feel like if you're oblivious to some of this stuff, they're going to slip under the cracks. And I have had that experience with a couple clients who ended up coming to me. They completely slipped under the cracks with their whole medical team that they were working on certain things, and it's incredibly upsetting. It's incredibly upsetting. So we need more people that can be, oh, okay, wait, there's something more here that we need to be looking into.
And, you know, I think it's hard too to recognize, especially from a primary care standpoint. Obviously, when kids are coming in with, for lack of a better word, a crisis as a result of their eating disorder,
that's right. Yeah.
To recognize, but you know, when you just see someone once a year and you see their growth, kind of their weight going down, and so many of us are so quick to congratulate them. You know,
which I don't, especially with kids, it's such a struggle.
With kids. Yes.
It's like they're obese, some of them, and you know what? That's okay, because you're going to do more damage by telling them about it, you know, and saying, I mean, I've seen professionals with patients who might be obese in the psychiatric world. So they're, you know, maybe they don't have an eating disorder. They're probably admitted for suicide, most likely, where like the dessert has been pulled off their tray. You know, like, you shouldn't be eating that. And it's just the amount of shame that these kids experience. Plus, you know, you layer that with a crappy home environment, depression, anxiety, suicide, they're bullied, or any mix of any of this. It's just like, oh yeah, let's focus on that cake.
Right.
You know, like, really? Come on, people. Like like that's their comfort. And if you can see that, we have to let it stay there, and let's pull all those layers back and get to the core root issue of what this child is experiencing. Because let me tell you, a child doesn't choose to be obese. You know, like they're not making that decision to be like, yep, bring it on, you know,
right.
It's totally situational. And I always really, really struggle when practitioners really just want to like beat up that whole obesity diagnosis. You know, it's just like, I know it's there and it's not good,
make it a food issue versus, you know, behavior, or again, whatever is going on at home or whatever else. Yes.
Right. I also
see that so commonly too. And my clinic patients that I see, you know, we're serving communities who are on Medicaid, who, you know, are living in not so great areas of Chicago. And yes, we want them to be healthy, and we want them to, you know, not have these lasting effects on their liver and on their cholesterol and on their blood pressure. But also, you know, the approach to take is that, you know, where can we cut out food? It's are you sitting down for meals with your family every day? Do you feel safe walking outside and getting exercise even? You know, it's questions so much beyond, you know, what are you putting on your plate?
Right. Survival.
Right. Yeah. There's so much, it's so much deeper than all of that. And even like, you know, Lauren, even you think of like cystic fibrosis or PCOS, or I'm trying to think of, you know, other things or medication. Someone's on prednisone, different steroids, where they have weight gain, and maybe now it pushes them into an obese category or whatever. And now all of a sudden it's like, people just want to always steer towards that obesity thing versus saying like, hey, you know what, when you have PCOS or you know, you just had brain surgery, so you're on prednisone, like this is okay. This is okay. This happens. We have to accept the change in our body. It doesn't necessarily mean your wellness is hit the pot because you're obese. Like our health isn't always affected by obesity. And
that's right.
And that, I think, is the piece that usually is missed by so many people. And practitioners, you know, are guilty of it as well as family and patients. And, you know, everyone, I think, is just so consumed by it so often. And it really stinks. And I'm hoping that we are producing in school more practitioners similar to yourself who can get that message out that like, hey, sit down with your family, let's eat dinner, you try to cook, let's go for a walk, you know, what's the home environment, what's the school environment. It's the extra 5 minutes that I know we don't have from insurance companies. You know, instead of 15 minutes, maybe we need 20. And that's the unfortunate part, that I don't know if people realize that, you know, doctors get 15 minutes with each patient. That's it. You know, like what can you even cover in that amount of time? Right. So here's this handout on how to not have high cholesterol or be obese. It's just, it's so kind of backwards in a sense, but we do. If we have more practitioners like you, it would definitely help, I think, in the grand scheme of things.
Thank you.
So,
any closing thoughts that you may have or want to, as we're kind of wrapping up on time here, Lauren? It's just kind of, is there any kind of messaging or anything that you wanna make mention before we close?
Oh boy. I don't think I have anything to add to what's already been said. I think what you guys are doing with this podcast is great, and getting the information out there in a format that's, you know, accessible and accurate, I think is so important. You know, there's so much out there in the media that's so easily, you know, we can be so easily influenced by, and it's important to be able to kind of piece through that.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thanks so much,
Dig
Lauren.
through it and not let it get to us either.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is the hard part. Yeah.
Not let it get to you. Well, Lauren, what's your favorite food? Let me ask that quick.
So I struggled with this a lot because I like a lot of food.
Yeah, of course.
You know, this morning I had one of my favorites, an everything bagel with avocado and extra seasoning.
Cool.
Ooh.
But I will say my one, I try not to be superstitious, and so I try not to have like things that I have to do before a marathon, all these rituals, because God forbid something go wrong. But my one thing that I do every single marathon is I have carrot cake after my marathon. So
fun.
I would think carrot cake is probably my favorite food.
I love it. That's so
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah. That's so unique. I love it.
Really, really
very,
fun.
very cool.
That's super cool. That is really
I have to make
unique.
a carrot cake.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, thanks for
you
sharing
so
your story, Lauren, and taking the
Yeah.
time out and being open and having this great conversation with us. We really appreciate it. And I wish you so well and have a blast with this team that you're on too. It's super exciting, and what a neat
great opportunity.
Yourself, you know, it's really cool. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Have a good one. Signing off.